Let's join online. Kom ons kyk wat gaan hier in die klas aan. Sover no participants. So we'll just do the recording. Tarin gaan vir ons join. Daar's Tarin. Ons kry die skermpie reg hier vir die klas ook. Nou begin Tarin, jy het niks gemis hier, hoor. Waar's my docs nou? Hy gaan uit. There we go. Right. Tarin, jy kan goed hoor? Klank is alles fyn?
Omdat ons basies ons van eintlik maar online is.
Yes.
Is dit vir ons beter nog steeds om mense te hê so en jy het dit as ek net doen en report.
Ek het nie 'n keuse nie. Ek het nie 'n keuse nie. Ek het daai bespreek met die college. So die besluit is geneem dat vir die 3 weke van die kwartaal onder studente is wat op kampus gaan wees van
Maar wat is dit nou vir jy se opinie?
My opinie, kom ons stel dit so, ek het 'n ander tweedejaars groep waar daar net 4 studente is. Een het glad nie hele derde kwartaal enigiets gedoen nie. Die ander 3 is geskatter en hulle het versoek van Limberg dat hulle gaan online aangaan hierdie kwartaal, wat sy toegestaan het. Maar ek het nou byvoorbeeld 'n groepie wat sê nou maar business selling eerstejaars. Hulle is so 12 omtrent, maar omtrent so 8 is omtrent hier. En dan het ek hulle nou en dan my tyd om van hier af terug te gaan huis toe. Is nie voldoende vir my om vir die volgende sessie nie, maar ek moet hier wees vir hulle. So my rooster is van so 'n aard dat dit maak nie eintlik vir my saak, dit maak nie eintlik vir my saak of ek hier is of by die huis is nie. Wat wel saak maak, dink ek, baie keer of kan saak maak afhangend van wat 'n klaskamer is dat die sein sterkte.
Ja.
Omdat hier's meer as een gebruiker hierso op die netwerk en by die huis is dit ek op 50-50 line. So dan is dit vinniger en dit is meer stabiel. Maar die feit van die saak is ja, daar is party, ek het party dae het ek soos maandag, ek het maandag net 1 klas, dis die 3de periode. Daar's voorstel om 1 student in die klas te wees. Hy het nog nie reeds 'n 2 weke klas gekom, die ander 3 is by die huis en dan is dit 'n frustrasie.
Ja.
Maar as dit is soos die normale rooster wat ek 'n eerstejaarsgroep het vir 'n dubbelperiode en dan 'n tweedejaarsgroep vir 'n dubbelperiode, dan dis 'n moeilike ene. So vir my maak dit regtig 'n saakie. Ek dink dit is vir my dis 'n kort tydjie. So is nie issue nie, maar ek persoonlik het meer effektief gewerk by die huis. In die sin van working space, disruptions, 2 ure wat hierna toe in huis toe, wat ek in die verkeer mis, wat ek meer effektief is. Ek voel ek het harder gewerk, ek het langer gewerk, want jy was nie, get up, go through the rush, start at 8, finish whenever you finish, go home, en dan vat jy maar 'n breek en dan gaan jy aan met van die goeders wat jy moet record en whatever ook al convert. En dan kom jy by die online, slegs online van die huis af. Jy staan letterlik op 'n halfuur voor die klas begin, of jy kan. En ek het. Hoekom? Want ek het, waar ek gewoonlik as ek klas het op kampus soos nou, dan is ek teen 10:00 in die bed en voorberei vir die volgende dag.
Ja.
Nou, as ek by die huis werk, omdat ek deur die dag breke vat, nog steeds al jou real-time Zoom sessies doen, werk ek vanaand tot 1:00. En ek is nie moeg nie, want ek weet, ek hoef 5 uur op te staan, ek kan 7 uur opstaan en nog steeds my ding doen. So, die routine het verander, en ek dink, ek kom agter nou, is ek weer terug by die, as ek verby 10 uur gaan, dan raak ek moeg. Dan moet ek sê, wow, ek staan hier vroeër môreoggend op. Maar dit is, ja, ou pas aan, en so ek sê, dit is nie vir my issue nie. Darien, is jy nog met ons? Jy moet nog vir ons koffie maak, jy het gesê, gaan koffie maak, maar jy het nog nie vir ons koffie gemaak nie. Right, Darren, jy wat gister aanlyn was, en Zandrag in die klas was, jy sal sien dat, training and motivation, this is where we started off. I'm just quickly going to recap. Basically what we said is, you've gone through the whole process of identifying the right candidates for the job, but now you are forced with the issue of keeping them happy, keeping them motivated. And that's probably one of the most challenging tasks. If you keep them motivated, they will work harder. If they work harder, your business performs better. The fact is that if you are properly motivated and you know you're going to be rewarded for your efforts that you put in, you personally are going to grow and your self-esteem is going to grow as well. You are going to get to say, okay, just bring it on. I mean, nothing is too much for you. And it's nice because you are then, if your workload increases, but you know you'll be rewarded for that, it also requires you to increase your creativity because at some point there's only so many hours in a day. So if you want to work harder, and there's a fine line between working harder and working more efficiently and working smarter for that matter. So I think with motivation it comes that increase in creativity that we actually discover that we didn't have. We all have an image in our minds of what creativity means, and it's somebody who could listen to a tune and then write down words and produce a song, or somebody who draws. It's more sort of somebody who's in touch with the artistic side, and that's not, that in itself is very creative, yes, because their creativity is visible. But the creativity that we refer to here in how you actually plan your work day, your work schedule, work creatively with that as well. In like I suggested the other day or yesterday to one of the second year groups, we were in C1 and that's about half the size of this one, and even half of that, in other words, probably a quarter of this classroom. Friends of mine had a business, two partners in the business, on the 4th floor of the sports science building, right opposite the hallway from where my office was. And they burst into my office one day and they said they just realized how trapped they are in how things are done in the modern era. They were sitting in the same office, the size of a quarter of this room, back to back in front of their computers, emailing each other, where they could turn around and just discuss the issue. But we get so caught up, it's almost if it's not on the screen, it's not real. If it's not on my phone, hey, you know, I so enjoy the American election, pre-election debate at the moment. Hey, people are just going, hey, just really about a fly on somebody's head, and it goes viral. Well, they're quite quick. I mean, and that's what they those campaign managers are about, to seize opportunities like this. Donate and help us fly this campaign. Wow, that's quick, that's good. Okay, so motivating people we've all realized, and Maslow's hierarchy came up, and Maslow, as I said yesterday, is motivating of hierarchy of how your needs, how you are motivated to satisfy your specific needs so you can get to the next level of needs, refers more specifically to consumers and how they behave, and not necessarily how employees will be motivated to work harder. By just satisfying your need for food, for security, in itself is not going to motivate you to work harder and be more productive. We looked at some other theories as well, and some of the other theories that we looked at was Hertzberg, where he basically said the hygienic issues and environmental office layout, work environment in general is important and has a very, very strong impact on how employees are motivated, or it motivates them, or it completely demotivates them if they work in. Imagine you've come to campus if every second chair is broken. I mean, it's like musical chairs. You have to rush to get to class to get one of the good chairs. The desks were unstable. They were constantly, I'm not talking about life that happens, and occasionally, yes, we will have problems, and yes, there's a connectivity problem, and yes, these things, because the use get old, and the screen and the monitor might go, and when you replace it, but those are hiccups. Those are general operational issues that happen on a daily basis in any business, but not on a constant basis. If there's a continuing, if we complain, listen, the chairs, the desk, that, or the projector, whatever, and it's not fixed, then eventually you are demotivated and say, no, I'm going to go to class. I mean, whatever. The circumstances currently is quite different, obviously, because there are certain regulations and restrictions as to distance that we have to keep, and it's totally different. But I think this being theories about that was created many years ago has become more evident now, specifically in the times of the pandemic that we find ourselves at the moment. Daarin is nou terug. Kom ons kyk gou of nou lewe gaan wees. Daar sy, Daarin kan jy goed hoor. Kom net vir my thumbs up. There we go. Thank you very much. Sit back and enjoy. Thanks for that cup of coffee that you made for Taryn and Zandra myself, eh? Jy gaan nog met inkom campus toe om my koffie vir ons te bring. Ek beloof jou dit nou. I'm going to keep you to that one. Then we have Adams in equity theory. If you feel that one person is treated differently than the other, at some point you're gonna feel demotivated. You get two possible responses from employees in that regard that employers are can prepare for, and that is that you are just going to keep quiet and then eventually one day just drop your letter of resignation on a manager's desk, or you're going to completely throw your toys. And that can result in, that can go either way. It can go very bad, where people can lose their jobs, or can get disciplinary actions taken against them. They can get warnings and stuff like that for misconduct or behavior. But at the end of the day, you want to know that if you put in X amount of effort, you are going to be rewarded in a certain manner. And then from an employer's point of view, the consistency of actually then doing it, of the integrity shown by actually then doing it. We had a look at VROOM'S theory as well. VROOM'S theory of expectancy theory, as they call it, have those three legs that it stands on: the expectancy, the instrumentality, and the valence, where the expectancy refers to the relationship between the effort and the performance, and instrumentality between the performance and reward, and then valence, the value that a particular reward has for you. If it hasn't value for, if a particular, I used a range of examples yesterday, and that is basically true. If it's what's valuable to Taryn is not valuable to Taryn. And as a result of that, I cannot reward him in the same way for the same performance. And that's why they say the secret is to accurately assess the needs and what really is important for all our staff members without meddling in their social lives and in their lives and having a big brother kind of effect. No, that's not the point. It's paying careful attention to small little details. You can pick up, and then eventually and it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight, and that's why that interview is so important. If you can structure your questions for interview, I'm not talking about your exercise next week in particular. I'm talking interviews in general. You can determine such a great deal about the individual, and the interview should be about that and not the qualifications and. Your interview has two specific goals, and that is to determine if the person will be able to do the job. And you can determine that by either giving them something to do that what they will be doing if they are employed, or to ask them questions that will indicate to you that they can think critically, and that's very important. And add a personal side to it as well. But without becoming too personal. Like the example says there, the effort that you put in at the end of the day, if the effort is increased, it can result in this profession of sales, the increase in sales. If that increase in sales is going to result in you getting a bigger reward, in other words, your performance and reward, that's the second one, that's the instrumentality, is the extra commission that you'll get. If the greater commission is a motivation for you to work harder, then yes, it will have value. That's the third one, the values. It will have value, that particular reward. However, if you're earning a decent salary, giving you extra money, rather give me more time off, rather incentivize me in a different way. But usually, because of our social structure in our country, a social class structure in our country, most employees who are fortunate to have jobs at the moment will take an extra buck above something else. It's probably your upper middle class and your upper class. It's not going to, an extra 5K doesn't really matter. And that's why, for me, it's so difficult to understand why, it's so difficult for me to understand why somebody, and I'm specifically talking about local government and national government, where you in a particular position that you were elected are earning a 7-digit, that's an amount plus 6 zeros. So above or more than in excess of R1 million. Why do you have to steal? Why do you have to be corrupt? And I can only come to one conclusion, and that is one of the human flaws, and that is greed. Because really, if you have enough, none of these corrupt individuals, regardless in what industry or profession they are, do it because they've got the Robin Hood kind of a gene in them. And they don't steal from the rich to give it to the poor. They enrich themselves further, and that's sad. However, slightly off topic. By the way, you saw that guy who won the Powerball, 121 million on the weekend.
Is he single?
He's married. He's 62 years old. He immediately resigned his job. He actually resigned his wife as well. He wrote a letter to her employees. She's not coming back. She was actually on a business trip, and not he's from Bloemfontein. So he bought himself an SUV. He bought her an SUV. He bought each of his children a car. And because the winnings were 121 million, he then invested fixed investment, 5 years fixed investment. Obviously, that's where interest rates are higher, and then you don't get access to that money in that period. 52 million. So just on that interest alone, he's gonna, and he says the rest he's probably going to spend.
So that's so
smarter that if you put money away, like, because anything can happen.
Exactly.
Or if you spend everything now, what if?
But Darren, that's the difference between winning at the age of 62 and winning at the age of 26. At 26, the money will go much quicker. Not because you've got longer to live, but if that same 26-year-old did what this individual did, they wouldn't have to work or worry about money ever again in future. But still, 121 million.
Also wouldn't have to pay for anybody else's
No,
cars,
exactly.
though.
He hasn't got children or a wife, so they don't have to share. But no, I think it's.
But also, maybe that money is also for his children, like when he like 10 passes away or something.
He's at that age where even if he spends half his money, if him and his wife spends half their money on traveling the globe whenever we can travel internationally again, and yeah, that's the sad part. I mean, part of his plans were to actually travel, but okay, he's probably have to wait for a number of years. He's definitely not being concerned to go into quarantine if he's on a 4-week holiday in the place, because I mean, really, make it 6, make it 8. I don't mind because he wants to travel. But yes, it's that's a sensible thing to do, obviously, because his children will inherit that 52 million anyway. So even they are made.
But even like with the whole spending of the money, like it's also putting it back into the economy, also, which is also a good thing. So it's like
at least 15% the government's getting back through VAT.
Yeah.
At least 15. Obviously, will be less some tax on this as well. I mean, all the money is not tax free.
also the cars that people are sold in, they
Of
all
course.
get money, the person
Yes.
itself overall gets money.
So that salesperson has now made his budget for the month and actually exceeded his budget for the month. So he's getting high commission. He's got to be motivated to come back, and he's earning more. So he can actually look after his family better. So yes, and that's why from the start I never had a problem with lottos and these things. There are people who have moral issues against gambling, and they see this as gambling. Of course, it's a form of gambling, but the fact is,
My thing is
When-
it's the chances. You have a better chance of dying while you're in the car on the way to buy a lotto ticket than actually winning the lotto.
yeah. But
But it's not that expensive as in going to gamble like an
Yeah,
actual
yeah,
casino.
exactly. So it's a different environment. It's more sort of an individual, personalized experience where you go to a supermarket or whatever and buy the ticket, or even buy it online. I mean, you sit at home, you just go and you buy it online. You can do that too. That's how I play $20 every week. So, but the fact is, you're quite right. Yeah, it's money that at some point it has a dual positive impact on the economy. The people who spend the money probably can't afford to spend that money, but they are prepared to take the chance of actually winning. That money spent by everybody who will then have a chance of winning. At some point, there are other beneficiaries and charities who get a lot of money. So that's the benefit. So the money that you spend, although it's a form of gambling, is actually an investment in the South African society, because some lot of money would benefit some community at some point. Apart from the money that you then win, which also ends up through a form of taxes and money spent back in the economy. But yeah, talking about the economy, it's going to be tough for a long time. We'll probably only pick up our heads again in of next year. The impact of, I'm not talking about the general economy and the state of the economy before the pandemic, but the effect of the pandemic on the economy.
You can only get a lotto in a year and a half.
At
Or
least,
something after
yeah.
a hit.
It's like that stone that you drop in the yeah, and it has the effect. It's the same as the tsunami. I mean, eventually it'll get to the shore, even if it happens way into the ocean.
After the earthquake.
After the earthquake, that was a tremor, apparently. Not an earthquake. It's
But
a,
isn't it tremor after?
yes, it is.
I don't think that was a word.
But then also, Darren, there's also another angle on this. They say that tremor is also everything is a tremor until it's beyond 4, measured as beyond 4 on the Richter scale.
But
Then it qualifies.
6.2. The first one was
They said so, yes. Then it qualifies as an earthquake because the one in Ceres in 1969 was actually 6.4. And that damaged buildings and the town.
But apparently it looks like there was two that happened that weekend. Like in the ocean there was one, and then I googled and something mentioned something like in Paul, but the Paul's one was 2.5 or something.
That was the Sunday morning at about 9 o'clock between Paul, Malmesbury and Durbanville, that area.
Oh.
My apologies. That water went the wrong way. No. Okay.
Management theory, yes.
Liget's theory says that you will perform and be motivated to perform better if you have a manager that has high performance, who has who performs high and rates high performance and actually performs at a high rate or high level himself or herself. That sort of, I don't want to be left behind. I mean, and he leads by, or she leads by example, and that obviously is ideal because, and you could probably see it in sport as well. The teams that often do better has a captain that leads from the front by, taking charge in a particular game situation. The two images that we have there are the two methods that is commonly used by salespeople, sales managers to conduct a meeting. The one has a triangle without the one that doesn't look like an upside down.
Like soos 'n fan.
Kan 'n fan wees, kan 'n skulpboek wees, dit kan enigiets wees wat
That one.
the monopolist one on the left hand side, on my right hand side and your left hand side. That is where like they would say with the monopoly, it could also have probably been the authoritarian kind of style or method, where the sales manager talks and he tells you guys what you have to do. So there's no interaction between everybody else, but it's the boss talking the whole time. Where on the other hand, the one on my left hand side and your right hand side, your left hand side, both our left hand sides. Yes, yeah, because this is reverse. Is more sort of open. There's an interaction between the manager. The sales manager is not prescriptive. He's setting goals, but he is offering you guys. I mean, last month we did this. This was our sales target. We did very well. We exceeded it marginally. How do you feel? What would you guys feel comfortable with? Was it tough for us to make that target? Do you think we can do it again? So there's interaction, and everybody has an input. It was a bit tough, I tell you what, but I think we can do it again. So then it's a joint effort, and then almost everybody is motivated because you can't now go back and say, but the boss said we have to sell 10 cars. No. We jointly decided we have to sell 10 cars because we felt that we could do it.
Leadership versus dictatorship.
Correct. Co-leadership, so to speak. There's somebody who takes the blame if it doesn't work. That's the sales manager or anybody in the management position. But everybody was involved in making a decision. I was fortunate when I was doing my research in London while I was working there to complete my master's degree. I worked at a place where they were probably years ahead. I'm talking about 1988, 89. They were probably years ahead in their management style, but every single first Monday of the month, the entire business, there were 2,000 people working there. The entire business closed. All we did is we had fun. It was a fitness center, but a fitness center, not what we are used to. A fitness center that has 3 restaurants inside, 10 indoor tennis courts, 10 grass courts outside, gym, pools, everything. So people parked off there for the whole day. Very often, when there were strikes, at some point there were strikes. While I was there were strikes, and the buses were striking, and the trains were striking. People didn't go to work because the preferred transport when you're in the UK. People don't have their cars. They take the cars out of the garage for days like that.
Yeah.
Usually they just take the bus and the train to get to work. Yeah. I met a family there that rocked up in their Volvo. All the kids didn't go to school that day. Everybody's there. Well, they had their laptops and everything, but they had breakfast there. They arrived there just before breakfast. They had breakfast there. Then somebody trained, but this and that, and outside play, a game of tennis, and they work a bit again. They had lunch. They stayed there the whole day. But I mean, the facilities was of that nature. But this specific on the first Monday of every month, they closed entirely, and this is what they did to get everybody from all the different departments to be involved in making decisions. And not just get to meet the financial manager, the guy that actually pays you at the end of every month. It's not just a number that goes into your bank account. On a social level, and that was quite good. I really enjoyed it. It was interesting. I actually used a lot of that information in my research as well. Has Andre had a question, or you wanted to add something? Okay, goed. Ja, right. Ek het nog nie al daai tekens opgetel nie. Right, and then we have very similar to that previous one that we had, Vroom. Very similar to Vroom. We've got Churchill Walker model, Ford, where your efforts result in higher performance, which leads to better rewards, which is a motivation, and then that motivates you to actually just repeat that cycle and put even a greater effort in. So it's just a slightly modified version of Vroom's theory, but like Maslow is for Maslow's hierarchy acts as a need satisfaction motivational theory. Vroom's expectancy theory does the same for motivation.
So,
yes.
Just a question of like motivation how these two would be asked like Vroom in this way. Like say that they could ask this in an exam but like online.
Yes.
Would they like I think there's about 2 ways to ask for maybe one. But would they like just like maybe say, oh, what's the name of this model? Or would they like be like, okay, put the words in place of where it's supposed to be in order of how they
I think Taryn, as jy die vraag gehoor het, it's about how can we expect in examination these last chapters that we've been doing, how are you going to be assessed in that regard? As I said, this is unfortunately one of those subjects that I'm not setting the paper itself, but I do know what the paper looks like. But and I think you've also experienced it in your previous test that you wrote in September, that at this time where you are in your course, as you've almost completed your second year, more and more applications are expected. So they will present a scenario to you and ask you to, like say for instance, that example that we had there on the screen, the example we had there on the screen for the sales situation, we might give you something like that and sketch a scenario and say, listen, so and so, this is their sales target, and you have to identify what particular theory is most applicable in that situation, and in that process you show understanding of firstly that you correctly identified it, and secondly that you actually know how to apply it to a specific case study. So they will probably give you a case study or sketch a specific scenario and then expect you to apply these theories or methods to it. But you can also get your true and false and missing word kind of questions from these last chapters that we are busy with. I think you can safely say that the last 3 chapters are sort of tied together. It started off with your job description and your job application and selecting the right candidate and interviewing them. Now they are there, keeping them motivated, and also part of this chapter is training them, because that is almost a given nowadays. because it's expensive to study. So and regardless of how expensive studies are, not too many qualifications that you obtain prepare you exactly for the workplace. So you have to immediately do some in-house training to become familiar with how things are done at that particular company that employed you. And then obviously the continuous upskilling, because the job expects you to change and do things differently because things change as a result of the technological era that we live in and that we work in. So very often new products come out, new systems are put in place, and to be able to use them efficiently, training is required. At this point, when I have the time, and the last 2 evenings I didn't have the time, so I'll do it again tonight. We get tutorials that we have to complete in preparation for our transition to a new student management system that will replace Moodle when we move to Stadio in January. We're going to go into the Microsoft equivalent, which is actually a very nice tool, which is Canvas. Okay, so everything will be stored on there. But we can't just in the middle of the year now just change, because too many things are in the system already. So that transition happens when you guys are on holiday. But in the meantime, we have to prepare ourselves on how the system works.
And when do we get prepared for our course?
Well, obviously that will be.
When does our training start?
That will obviously happen, but you will have to train people. We need to be trained first, so we can train you. Okay, so but it will be gradual. It won't be like chalk and cheese. Okay, let's see. Interesting. Salespeople. Interestingly enough, individuals meeting with their superiors to discuss their careers, their jobs, their problems. That was very high on most salespeople when this particular study was done. A list of important things. They want to know. Like I said yesterday, they want to know, what's my career path? What are my options? Where do I go from here? I'm now the assistant manager. Is there a chance that I'll become a manager? What do I have to do to become the manager? And for many years, and in many management styles, your managers and management see that as a threat. Okay, you're going to go for my job, where I'm going to go. Okay, but if the company has a clear policy in place where job and career path is clear to everybody, then nobody could say, but I didn't know that. I don't know. Both of you knew it. So, I mean, if the one did better than the other, then that's the one that's going to get promoted. Be consistent in that, however. Don't do it in one particular department or in one case and not the next one, for instance, because that's where people, it's all fine and good and well if they have a plan like that and everybody buys into it. But if it's not implemented consistently, then obviously we will have, you actually create problems for yourself. But it was strange when I read this and that just makes you realize, despite the fact that you as millennials are not known, not you because you're still studying, but millennials are not known to be as company and job loyal than the previous generation. They will work for a company for 2 years and then move on to another one.
But the thing is now where previous years, like my dad said once, is you want someone who had the same job for 28 years as a sales manager at one company. When now people are like, okay, but you only work there, only work day. Don't you wanna do more?
I think because we have a transition, not just in employees on the employee level, on the entry level, but also on the top level. Those who have, what's pre-millennials, I think generation, what, Y, Z, whatever.
Generation
X. You're currently confronted, your 40, 45 to 50-year-old managers, executives who've been with the company for many years, or with different companies, but who've gained the experience, and for that reason they are in a particular managerial position. They are confronted that their workforce actually can very easily include 3 different generations with different, obviously, characteristics, and they have to manage that, and that makes it challenging. But it also implies that where they are, they've also adapted, and they are quite used to this. So they expect that person only to work there for 2 years. There's nothing wrong with that regular. In the past, it would have that regular staff turnover would have been seen as a serious problem in a business, but it's actually not at the moment. However, your key staff members, and you will easily pick up who they are. Companies are prepared to actually pay them a bit extra to keep them, because they want that 10, 15, 20-year-old loyal staff member there to assist them and help them with the regular turnover at the entry level. So it's finding a nice balance, and it is difficult. It is difficult, and I think also what we have also experienced in the same at the same time is that one of the reasons why people don't remain loyal they're loyal while they're there, but they're not loyal to the company. They're loyal to the job. Is that very often because our economy and the global economy has gone into a recession, regardless of what people want to believe, people are getting retrenched. And who are getting retrenched? The ones who were appointed just now.
Yeah.
So it was the latest ones in are the first ones out. And I think that's also contributed to that observation that people don't stay at a company for as long as they have in the past. But to me, one of the things that I would want to ask, if the question is not on the table when I'm being interviewed for a job, would be career. What does my career path look like? And that is directly linked to the commitment that a company shows towards training. If they are committed to training their staff and upskilling their staff, it means that they have their hand on the pulse. They know that continuous training is required. They will, as an incentive, my wife has been with the company that I got retrenched from. She basically as well, but then she actually started doing consulting work for them, and now she's actually employed by them full time again, but at the head office. So she's got a national position now. But for many years, one of her complaints, for over 20 years, one of her complaints were, we never get what. Let's look at university. They send their staff on training courses because there is a clear career path. You lecturer, junior lecturer, then you become a lecturer. If you do publications and you write articles, you can actually become a doctor. You can actually eventually become a professor, and all of that. There's a clear career path for you. So you know, some people are professors at the age of 30, but it usually only happens around about 50. So she now, for the last 3 years, every single year, they've paid what they've never done for 22 years. And they then eventually realized that was some of the mistakes that they've made, upskilling their staff. And she did 3 different degrees. She's busy with a 3rd degree now, 3rd master's degree in 3 years. And they pay for it. So that is an incentive for her to stay with them at the moment. Because, I mean, if you look at at master's level, your fees are not, it's expensive. But again, that is one of the most important things that is very underrated by many managers and many companies, the importance of training your staff and giving them a clear career path as to where they can go. Some companies are better off because they are very diverse in what they do. So you might move to an affiliate of the mother company. It's not necessarily just with the same company all the way to the top. That's how you climb the ladder. You can actually move horizontally as well into different areas and different branches of the departments of the company. That's also true because you also have studied in a particular field. Now you get into the job, you do your job, you become more comfortable in it, and you realize, but I can actually do more. And you can then move to areas that maybe there's something, a skill that you developed that you didn't know, that you weren't aware of. All of a sudden you like it. So you actually, as that personal growth happens, can then move into a different department of the same company for that matter.
And franchising.
Yes, and that's also some of the incentives that's often provided by companies to their employees to say, all right, we can open a new branch there. We would like you to take the opportunity. Now you all of a sudden are
Manager of that whole.
yes, and now everything that you've learned and that hopefully you can copy what they have taught you. That's why it's so important to have a good leader. I'm very happy at the moment. No, I'm very happy. No, I'm happy with the leader of our country at the moment, because as opposed to previous candidates that we've had, have become used to, there's a bit of action. It's a lot of people say, yeah, but it's not enough. You know what? You've got to start somewhere. The previous guys didn't start anywhere. So I'm quite happy, but also look at his background. He was involved way back in 1989, 91, before Mandela was released. He was involved in the talks with Evie de Klerk and those guys to get Mandela released. He went to all those so he's been behind the scenes, and he knows more than probably anybody at the moment. And on top of that, himself, he as an individual has been successful in business.
And he's more educated also than what he
Yes.
was.
Okay, but that's not hard.
So that is extremely important. And while we're on that subject, because it's relevant, because it deals with leadership, and leadership is such a crucial element to motivate your staff and to actually realize the importance of training your staff on continuously. If I can refer back to the American presidential election or pre-election activities at the moment, very interesting that out of those candidates who are currently both candidates who stand a chance, or 50-50 chance basically, to become the next president, haven't got a political qualification behind their names. Trump is a businessman. He studied and got commercial qualifications. Joe Biden, obviously, I think he was in law or something like that. The vice president, because they obviously have to have vice president candidates as